The forest was a cathedral of shadows, its canopy a mosaic of fractured moonlight that spilled silver across the undergrowth. Pine needles crunched softly beneath the cautious tread of a bobcat, its tawny fur blending seamlessly with the dappled earth. Its eyes, twin embers glowing in the dark, scanned the clearing with predatory precision. The air was heavy with the scent of damp moss and the faint musk of prey, carried on a breeze that whispered secrets through the ancient trees. Somewhere, a distant stream gurgled, its rhythm a quiet pulse in the night's stillness. The bobcat, named Kale by the few who knew of its legend, moved with a grace that belied its lethal intent. Every muscle was taut, every sense honed to the faintest disturbance in the forest's symphony. High above, perched on a gnarled branch of an old oak, an owl sat in solitary vigil. Its feathers were a tapestry of ash and ivory, its eyes like twin moons, wide and unblinking, drinking in the world below. The owl, known to the forest's whispers as Lyrian, was no ordinary creature. Her gaze held a weight, a knowing that seemed to pierce the veil of time itself. She was a guardian of secrets, a keeper of lore older than the roots that cradled the earth. Tonight, she watched the stars, her heart heavy with a premonition she could not name. The forest was restless, and so was she. Kale's ears twitched, catching the soft rustle of feathers as Lyrian shifted on her perch. His hunger was a gnawing beast within him, but it was not mere sustenance that drove him tonight. There was something about this owl, something that stirred a deeper instinct, a curiosity that bordered on obsession. He had watched her for nights, her solitary presence a puzzle in a forest teeming with life. Why did she linger alone? What power did those luminous eyes hold? Kale's tail flicked, a silent signal of intent, as he crept closer, his paws soundless on the forest floor. Lyrian's head swiveled, her gaze locking onto the bobcat's form, though he believed himself unseen. Her heart quickened, not with fear but with a strange recognition. She had dreamed of this moment, of a shadow moving beneath her perch, of a dance that would unravel the threads of fate. She did not flee. Instead, she spread her wings, their span casting a fleeting shadow across the moonlit clearing, and let out a low, haunting hoot that seemed to echo beyond the trees, into the very heart of the night. Kale froze, his breath catching at the sound. It was no mere call. It was a challenge, a summons, a melody that tugged at something primal within him. His instincts screamed to pounce, to claim his prize, but something in that cry held him back. He crouched lower, his eyes never leaving hers, and in that moment, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The stars above flickered, as if aware of the tension coiling below. With a sudden burst of motion, Kale leaped, his claws unsheathed, his body a blur of muscle and intent. Lyrian, with a grace that seemed to defy the laws of the world, launched herself skyward, her wings beating against the air. But Kale was no ordinary predator. His leap was calculated, his trajectory a perfect arc. His claws grazed her tail feathers, and with a twist of his body, he caught her in midair, his weight pulling them both to the ground in a tangle of fur and feathers. Lyrian struggled, her talons raking the earth, but Kale's grip was unrelenting. Yet, as he pinned her beneath him, he did not strike. Her eyes met his, and in their depths, he saw not fear but defiance, a fire that burned brighter than his own. "You do not know what you've begun," she whispered, her voice a soft rasp that seemed to weave through his mind like smoke. Kale's snarl faltered. Words from prey were unnatural, yet her voice carried a weight that made his fur bristle. "What are you?" he growled, his voice low and guttural, the first time he had spoken in months. The forest, his domain, had never demanded speech, only survival. "I am the keeper of the veil," Lyrian said, her eyes unyielding. And you, Kale, are no mere hunter. You've crossed a threshold tonight, and there is no turning back. The bobcat's ears flattened, his mind racing. How did she know his name? What was this veil she spoke of? Before he could demand answers, the ground beneath them trembled, a low rumble that sent leaves cascading from the trees. The air grew thick, charged with a strange energy that made Kale's hackles rise. Lyrian's eyes widened, not in fear but in recognition. "It begins," she murmured. From the shadows of the forest, shapes emerged, formless at first, then coalescing into figures that were neither beast nor man. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and their forms shimmered as if woven from the night itself. Kale released Lyrian, instinctively stepping back, his instincts warring between fight and flight. Lyrian rose, her wings folding neatly, her gaze never leaving the approaching figures. "They are the wardens," she said, her voice steady despite the encroaching threat. "Guardians of the veil, bound to protect its secrets. You've disturbed their rest, Kale, and now they seek us both." Kale's mind reeled. He was a creature of instinct, of tooth and claw, not of mysteries and ancient pacts. Yet the weight of Lyrian's words, the truth in her eyes, anchored him. He had snatched the owl, but in doing so, he had torn open a door to something far greater, something that threatened to consume them both. The wardens advanced, their forms shifting like smoke, their voices a chorus of whispers that clawed at Kale's mind. "Return what was taken," they intoned, their words a cold blade against his thoughts. "The veil must not be breached." Lyrian stepped forward, her feathers ruffling as if kissed by an unseen wind. "He does not know," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "He is not the one you seek." The wardens paused, their glowing eyes narrowing. Kale felt their gaze pierce him, as if peeling back the layers of his soul. He wanted to run, to disappear into the safety of the forest, but Lyrian's presence held him fast. She was no mere owl, and he was no mere bobcat. Not anymore. "Then prove it," the wardens hissed, their forms coalescing into a single, towering figure that seemed to draw the light from the stars themselves. "Prove his innocence, Keeper, or you both will pay the price." Lyrian turned to Kale, her eyes blazing with a fierce resolve. "Will you run, Hunter?" she asked, her voice both a challenge and a plea. "Or will you stand with me?" Kale's heart pounded, his claws flexing against the earth. Every instinct screamed to flee, but something deeper, something he could not name, stirred within him. He met her gaze, his own eyes burning with a fire he hadn't known he possessed. "I stand," he growled. The forest erupted in a cacophony of light and shadow, the wardens' forms dissolving into a storm of energy that surged toward them. Lyrian's wings flared, and a pulse of light burst from her, shielding them both as the world around them began to unravel. The forest dissolved into a maelstrom of light and shadow, the trees bending as if caught in an unseen tempest. Kale's claws dug into the earth, anchoring him against the onslaught, while Lyrian stood resolute, her wings aglow with a radiance that pulsed like a heartbeat. The warden's storm raged around them, their voices a relentless chorus of accusation, each word a shard of ice in Kale's mind. "Thief of secrets," they hissed, their forms weaving in and out of the chaos, now a pack of spectral wolves, now a swarm of flickering eyes. "The veil is torn, and you will answer." Lyrian's light held firm, a barrier of shimmering energy that deflected the warden's assault. Her eyes, fierce and unyielding, met Kale's. "Stay close," she commanded, her voice cutting through the din like a blade. "Their power is old, but it is not infinite. We must reach the heart of the veil." Kale's mind reeled, questions clawing at him. What was the veil? Why had his pursuit of a lone owl unleashed this nightmare? But the urgency in Lyrian's gaze silenced his doubts. He nodded, his body low and ready, his instincts honed to the chaos around them. The forest was no longer his domain. It was a battlefield, and he was bound to this strange owl by a thread he could neither see nor break. Lyrian's wings flared, and the light around them surged, carving a path through the storm. "Run!" she cried, and Kale obeyed, his powerful legs propelling him forward as the ground buckled beneath him. The wardens howled, their forms shifting into jagged tendrils that lashed at the air, seeking to ensnare them. Lyrian flew low, her wings brushing Kale's back, guiding him through the twisting maze of trees that seemed to writhe and shift with a life of their own. The forest was no longer the place Kale knew. The air thrummed with an unnatural energy, the stars above obscured by a swirling vortex of shadow. Roots burst from the ground, curling like serpents, and branches snapped at them like jaws. Yet Lyrian moved with a certainty that bordered on divine, her eyes fixed on some unseen beacon. "The heart is near," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "It is the source of the veil, the anchor of this world's secrets. If we reach it, we can end this." Kale's breath came in sharp bursts, his heart a drumbeat of defiance. He didn't understand her words, but he felt their weight, their truth. He leaped over a chasm that opened beneath him, its depths glowing with an eerie light, and landed beside Lyrian as she alighted on a stone outcrop. Before them, the forest parted, revealing a clearing bathed in an otherworldly glow. At its center stood a tree unlike any Kale had ever seen. Its bark shimmered like liquid silver, its branches heavy with leaves that pulsed with veins of light. The air around it hummed, a low vibration that seemed to resonate in Kale's bones. "The heart of the veil," Lyrian whispered, her voice tinged with awe. "It holds the balance of this world and the next. The wardens guard it, but they cannot destroy it. Only we can decide its fate." Before Kale could respond, the wardens materialized, their forms coalescing into a single, towering figure. A creature of shadow and flame, its eyes burning with a hatred that chilled Kale's blood. "You dare approach the heart?" it roared, its voice shaking the earth. "You, a mere beast, and you, keeper, who have failed your charge?" Lyrian stepped forward, her wings spread wide. "I have not failed," she said, her voice ringing with a power that made the air shimmer. "The veil was breached because it was meant to be. The secrets it hides cannot remain buried forever." The warden's eyes narrowed, its form flickering as if struggling to maintain its shape. "You speak of prophecy," it snarled, "but prophecy is a lie spun by the weak. The veil must stand, or all will fall." Kale's hackles rose, his instincts screaming to attack, but Lyrian's wing brushed his flank, a silent command to hold. "There is no time," she said softly, her eyes never leaving the warden. "The heart is weakening. If it falls, the worlds will collide, and nothing will survive." Kale's mind raced. Worlds, prophecy. He was a hunter, not a sage, yet the fire in Lyrian's gaze tethered him to this moment. "What do I do?" he growled, his voice rough with urgency. "Trust me," she said, and before he could protest, she launched herself at the warden, her wings blazing with light. The creature roared, its tendrils lashing out, but Lyrian was a blur of motion, weaving through its attacks with a grace that seemed to defy reality. She struck the warden's core, her talons sinking into its shadowy form, and a pulse of light erupted, forcing the creature back. "Now, Kale," she cried. "The heart." Kale didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the tree, his claws tearing into the earth, his heart pounding with a purpose he didn't fully understand. The warden's screams echoed behind him, but he didn't look back. The tree loomed larger, its light enveloping him, and as he reached it, he felt a surge of energy, like a tide pulling him under. His paw touched the bark, and the world exploded into white. When his vision cleared, he was no longer in the forest. He stood in a vast, endless expanse, the ground beneath him a mirror of stars, the air alive with whispers he couldn't decipher. Lyrian appeared beside him, her feathers glowing faintly, her eyes wide with something like fear. "We're inside the veil," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is the space between worlds, where secrets are born and die." Kale's fur bristled. The air felt wrong, heavy with a presence that made his instincts scream. "Why are we here?" he demanded. "Because you chose to stand," Lyrian said, her gaze softening. "The heart recognized you, Kale. You're not just a hunter. You're part of this, part of the balance." Before he could respond, the expanse shuddered, and a figure emerged from the starlit mist. A bobcat, identical to Kale in every way, yet its eyes were voids, black and endless. "You don't belong here," it said, its voice a twisted echo of Kale's own. "You've taken what's mine." Kale's snarl was instinctive, his body tensing for a fight. But Lyrian's wing touched his shoulder, her voice urgent. "It's a shadow of you, a piece of the veil's power. It will try to claim you, to unravel you. You must face it." The shadow bobcat lunged, and Kale met it, their bodies colliding in a whirlwind of claws and teeth. The fight was brutal, each blow a mirror of the other, as if Kale were battling himself. Pain seared through him, but he fought on, driven by a fire he hadn't known he possessed. Lyrian's light flared beside him, her voice chanting words he didn't understand, weaving a shield around them as the shadow's attacks grew fiercer. In the chaos, Kale saw flashes, memories that weren't his. A forest burning, a sky torn open, creatures like Lyrian falling from the heavens. He saw himself, not as a bobcat but as something more, a guardian, a keeper, bound to a purpose he had forgotten. The realization hit him like a blow, and he faltered, the shadow's claws raking his flank. "You are nothing," the shadow hissed, its void eyes gleaming.
"O boost, o sof, o mistlik."
"No," Kale roared, his voice shaking the starry expanse. "I am Kale." He lunged, his claws finding the shadow's throat, and with a final surge of strength, he tore through it. The shadow dissolved, its scream fading into silence, and the expanse shuddered, the stars above blazing brighter. Lyrian's light enveloped him, her voice soft but triumphant. "You did it," she said. "You faced the shadow, and the veil is whole again." The world shifted, and they were back in the forest, the silver tree pulsing softly, the wardens gone. Kale's breath was ragged, his body aching, but he felt different, stronger, whole in a way he hadn't known he was broken. Lyrian's eyes met his, and for the first time, she smiled, a small, knowing curve of her beak. "You're no longer just a hunter," she said. "The veil has marked you. You're part of its balance now, as I am." Kale's tail flicked, his mind still reeling. "What does that mean?" he asked, his voice rough but steady. "It means the forest is yours to protect," Lyrian said, her wings folding neatly. "And I'll be here watching the stars, keeping the secrets. We're bound now, you and I." The forest was quiet again, the stars above clear and bright. Kale looked at Lyrian, then at the silver tree, its light fading into a gentle glow. He didn't understand it all, not yet, but he felt the truth of it, deep in his bones. The owl and the bobcat, the keeper and the guardian, stood together in the moonlight, their fates entwined, the forest whispering its approval around them.